So explaining the drying process in a bit more detail of what I just did here. The warm dry air coming through the air movers essentially allows for water and moisture to be moved into the dehumidifier. Dehumidifier dries the moisture out of the air, drains to the sink or drained via hose on the back of the dehumidifier, and allows warm air to be released into the space. This cycles out, again, the moisture content within the property and really leads to the key drying process and ensuring that not only are the materials that were wet and affected are maintained, but we also are mitigating any potential further damages from additional materials in the space. Humidity can affect everything in a property. So if you have a bathroom where we have a tile floor and there's a major loss in there that's not dealt with appropriately, that could have a lasting impact on the hardwood flooring in that same unit as well, just from the moisture retention on the subfloor. Making sure that we are constantly putting dry air through the drying process is a critical part of it. The machines that we see here are really the most advanced dehumidifiers on the market. These are known as desiccants. You see lay flat tubing coming out of them, the red hoses on the one end. These hoses are taken and distributed throughout the entire building. So this was an apartment building, and essentially these hoses went one to basically every floor and then distributed throughout the ceiling, ensuring that warm, dry air was pushed through the entire space. A setup like this is obviously extensive, and we're talking about an entire building of fully saturated materials, but having the ability to use these desiccant machines can have a major impact on keeping that building standing, as well as ensuring that we're saving materials that we can. So critical part of the system. Another specialty drying material, injected dry wall cavity drying systems. You'll see the setup here. We have fans, dehumidifiers, and then all of these yellow tubes stretching into the ceiling and going into different portions of the drywall on this property. What these little tubes are doing is injecting the warm, dry air from a central machine kind of tucked behind this big red dehumidifier here and into the wall cavities themselves. So combining the air movement behind the wall cavity and in areas where it might be more difficult to reach through the semi-porous materials is really, again, just a critical part of the restoration process. This extensive of a setup is done when saving materials is of the utmost importance. So in a situation like this, where the entire floor is wrapped off, the injected dry system is put into the opening cavity in the ceiling, the intention behind a setup of this extensive work is really to ensure that we're using advanced structural drying techniques and doing whatever we can to avoid taking materials out. There can be any number of specific reasons that a homeowner or a condo building would have to attempt drying like this. And it's a great process to have and be aware of. Additional equipment here, a similar system to the injected dry, which we use for walls. This can also be set up using floor drying mats. Each of these little mats here is essentially suctioned to the flooring and taking water through these yellow tubes and injecting warm air through the smaller yellow tubes and cycling it through this machine, which acts very similarly to a dehumidifier as well. So when you have a very limited amount of surface space that you're trying to dry and access essentially drying a subfloor throughout this entire area without removing the materials, setting up some equipment like this can have a major impact on the potential of drying that space.